This is the Cricket Matters podcast, and today we're talking about how to get in the zone for cricket. I remember this is something that one of my acting teachers used to talk about, being in the zone. And she's always like, "Oh, Josh is really good at getting in the zone." Apparently, no idea how I did that, by the way. But it is something we also hear top sportsmen talking about, don't they? When they have their best performances, that they were in the zone. So, in terms of cricket, how do you get in the zone, or what is the flow state?
Good question. And this is really difficult to answer. I think that's the... Let's start off there and just acknowledge this. That is a really difficult answer. So again, we have to go and find out and see what the experts say. Now, I am going to butcher this guy's name completely, right? And I do apologise profusely. However, again, I would encourage you all to go back to the blog. We've written a blog about this, and you can learn more about it. And it goes more in depth, and it's easy to read because it's going to take a while to digest this. But the concept of the flow state, right, it was developed by a psychologist, a Czech psychologist called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
I'm going to say that's wrong.
Completely wrong, right? I think Mihaly is definitely the right word.
I think you've got Mihaly. You nailed that.
Yeah. And I've missed out the complete rest of it here. This is a book he wrote in 1980. He is the world's leading professor on the flow state, right? And in his own words from the book and his studies, right? He says that the flow state is a state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience is so enjoyable that people will continue to do it even at great cost for the sheer sake of doing it, right? Now, how does it translate to cricket? Well, most people, when they're in a state of like scoring runs, right? You can see people sometimes who just take a game away from somebody. They'll score an unbelievable 50 to 100 in no time at all, and it looks effortless. Somebody will come on and do an amazing bowling spell. I always think of the spell that Andrew Flintoff bowled to Ricky Ponting in the 2005 Ashes, where that was like a flow state, where it was one of the best overs ever bowled at Ricky Ponting. It was just like incredible. He was in the zone. He was in that state of flow. But the question is, people sometimes just go into it, but the best sportsmen can pull themselves into it time and time again, right? And that's the difference. So to play at the highest levels and to get into the best games you want to do is you want to be able to pull yourself back into that flow state as often as possible. So how do you get into it? Well, again, go to Mihaly's research and his things. We can understand what are the characteristics of flow, right? So he has 8 of them. And the 8 ones are: you're completely concentrating on the task in hand. You have clarity of goals and immediate feedback. This idea of transformation of time, speeding up or slowing down. The experience is intrinsically rewarding. Effortless and ease. Balance between challenge and skills. Actions and awareness emerge, losing self-conscious rumination. And a feeling of control over the task. Now again, those are just words. And it doesn't really mean much, right? So, well, how does it translate into cricket? Well, we've got to have complete concentration and clarity of our goals, what we're trying to achieve on the field. What's the immediate feedback we're getting, right? We know players can experience this transformation of time and losing themselves amongst time. It just goes, wow, that was quick. I can't believe I scored 50 so quickly, or whatever it is, right? And those intrinsic rewards from cricket come from hitting those personal milestones, like scoring 50, scoring 100, taking 5 wickets, right? And being in a game and a match where there's a balance between your skill set and the opposition skill set, right? You don't want to be playing in something that's so easy or something so hard it's not challenging for you. You've got to find this balance of the right level for your abilities, right? And allowing you to feel in control of the game. So I think out of all this, it's going back to the idea of like taking control and ownership. How do you go into control? And that, again, goes back into the pulling yourselves into zone. And in previous podcasts we've done is that having a routine, set routine, giving yourself clarity. So when you go out into the middle, it's familiarity. It's not fear. You're going out with a positive mindset as opposed to a negative mindset, which is going to drag you back down. So, this is complex, right?
It is.
On so many different levels.
I'm not sure we can go too much deeper than what we've gone, but as you say, if you've got that routine to fall back on, you've probably, and this is me surmising here, by the way, you've got more chance of achieving the flow state and getting in the zone, haven't you? Because again, taking it back to my acting days, I had a process. I wasn't quite method or anything like that, but I did have a process that I went through for each character. So I guess in a way that would have helped me, I suppose, because I never thought I was about being in the zone. It was like, oh, you look like you're in the zone. So it's routine, isn't it, which is going to make the difference.
Exactly. And then at the same time, you can't experience the flow state if there are distractions, because distractions will disrupt that experience, right? So the only way I think it's the most important takeaway out of the whole thing is that we've got to learn to quieten the mind, which we've talked about in several podcasts about meditation and about routine and practice and getting into the zone. However, you've got to quieten that mind. If you can't quieten that mind, you're going to have distractions. Because remember, you've got to have total focus on the task at hand, right? So it comes back to real basics. How do you achieve the flow state? How do you get into the zone? Well, lesson number one is quieten the mind, right? And you do that by consistent process and consistent routine and learning to let thoughts just go. Remember that, it's that train analogy. It's a train whizzing through the train station in front of you. Imagine that's your thought process. It's a thought just whizzing from one ear to the other, straight across you each time. So start by learning this idea of quietening the mind to help pull yourself into the flow state. And to pull yourself into the flow state, you've got to think about how you achieve and play your best. What were the characteristics of you when you're playing your best each and every ball, right? So next time you go out and play, next time you score 100, next time you take 5 wickets, at the end of the game, write down what happened that day. What things did you do? So you build up this routine and this checklist each and every time to help you pull into that flow state. But again, if you want to go deeper into the idea of what the flow state is, go into the work of Mihaly's, book, right? Go into his work of his studies. There's a great TED talk as well. I think we've put on the blog too about it. So there's so many things here. And it's having this motivation of what motivates you to get going as well. So it is so complex. Maybe we can try and invite him onto the podcast. How about that? Should we try and find him and actually learn how to pronounce his name properly? Yeah, exactly. Let's invite him onto the podcast to pull him into the flow state and this idea. Because I think that's probably the best way for him to explain it more in depth, because I am sure as hell probably butchering it right now.
Well, I think you've given more of a layman's overview, isn't it? Which is what we need, because none of us, cricketers out there aren't going to understand this either. So, tips like, as you say, finding a routine, quietening your mind. That's all good tips. Just to finish off, mate, is it something that you feel you've ever achieved when you've been batting or bowling?
Yeah, definitely. When you score 100, sometimes you can be streaky, right? You can be streaky as hell. But other times you're just completely immersed in what you're trying to do. There's, I'd say there was two innings this year that I felt completely immersed, and I had, no concept of time, and it was just enjoyable. Yeah. Both times I scored 100, and it was great. So yeah, I think I am, and the older I'm getting, sadly, the more I can pull myself into it, because the more we're researching and learning about it and helping other athletes do it too. And the more you learn about it, again, I wish I knew this 20, 25 years ago. I really, really wish I did. But I think the 3 takeaways from everybody in terms of finding yourself to get you into that flow state is you've got to believe in yourself, you've got to set clear goals, and you've got to have clear focus. And focus starts from quieting the mind. And we keep coming back to this time and time again, I think. But check out the blog for sure. Please go read the blog. Read out his book, Flow. It is a bestseller. There's thousands and millions of reviews about it. If you want to go more in depth, particularly for coaches, I think it's a good one for coaches to read. So it's another level. And we'll try one day maybe to get him on a podcast to talk about it, to just teach us how to A, pronounce his name, but B, understand it a little bit better.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That is it for today. Please don't forget to rate, review and subscribe. And if you would like our free training plan, then go to cricketmatters.com/train. And remember, our goal is to make you a better cricketer.